Assalamu alaikum and welcome back, guys, on the second lesson of Python learning. Imagine if you want your relationships to last. Well, you need to communicate, right? You leave thoughtful comments for your partner, appreciate the little things. Guess what? In Python, it's no different. Just like in relationships, if you want your code to be clear and long lasting, you need to comment. It makes everything easier to understand, not just for you but for others as well. And just like in life, sometimes you need to express yourself. That's where print comes in. It's like shouting your message so everyone, including you, knows what's going on. Now, just like people have different personalities, Python has different data types, some for numbers, others for text. Each type has its own job, and picking the right one is the key. So, today we are diving into comments, print, and data types, essentials that make Python powerful and easy to understand. Let's dive deep and discover the magic.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
So we have decided to split the video into two parts. The first would be the theory part where I would explain what the comments, print, or whatever the topic of that day is. And then in the next part, we are going to code live. And then you're going to have to practice that code to get the better hang of it. So let's start this journey. First of all, let's talk about the comments. Now, comments are lines in your code that the Python does not consider it as your code. They are meant for you or others to understand what the code does or to leave notes. They are just like notes that the code is doing X or Y, whatever the function that code is performing. So this is not part of the code, but this is very crucial in understanding the programs. In fact, many times you do not understand your own code after you look at it after like 2-3 months. So comments are necessary even for yourself. Then we have the print function. It is used to output information and display it. It can display text, variables, or the results of the expressions, making it essential for communicating what your code is doing. Similarly, we have data types. They determine the kind of data a variable can hold. Python supports different data types like numbers, text, and more. The most common are integer, float, string. Now, why are they important? Because the data types, they help Python determine what operations can be performed on a variable. Understanding them ensures that you handle data correctly, avoiding errors and improving performance. So let's look at some examples. So we're going to ask this guy to show us an example. Okay. So here you can see, let me switch to highlighter. Now in this code, you do not have to understand the code because we have not yet started coding, but you have to understand that this is a code. This is defining the width. This is telling you that then in the next two lines, you're defining the width and height of a rectangle. And this line is telling you that the width in units, this is width, this is height. Then it's saying then now you're calculating the area of the rectangle. Then it's saying the area formula is width into height. That's what I have done here. Now you're displaying the results. Output the result to the console. Now you see, even if I do not know how to code, these comments make it very easy for me to understand what this code is doing for me. This is exactly the power of codes. We usually ignore or belittle the importance of code, importance of comments, but I want you to keep this in your habits. That whenever you code, do comment. Okay, awesome. Now let's look at the print. For the example, we are going to ask this lady to show us an example of print. Now, I do not want you to understand what this code is doing. I just want you to have a look and get the feel of it. That, for example, this is how you print a simple message. I'm going to show you live with the live coding of what are the rules and how can you print different variables, text, and all that. So I would show you. Don't worry about that as well. Just have a look at it and get familiar with the way the code looks. So after print, we also have data types. Now, in this example, we are going to look at some examples on data types. So let's ask the grandpa this time. Again, I do not want you to get overwhelmed with the code. Of course, the first time you look at this, you do not understand at all. But I just want to show you that this is nothing but this is saying that it is an integer, a whole number. This is a float data type. It just means that the number has decimal in it. It is a text data type, Boolean data type. It is either true or false. And then we have a list where we can have multiple elements in a single variable. So we are going to go deep into the coding, and then you would understand that this is very easy. Having said that, let's go and look at the VS Code, because this is where we're going to practice our coding skills. And I just want to mention that practice is the key to mastery. It transforms potential into achievement and dreams into reality. Now, even if you have understood in the theory part that, okay, now I know how to comment, I know what a print statement does, or I know what are the data types, you would forget them in 72 hours if you do not practice. So it is very important that you practice. So let's switch to practice then. Okay, now let's start coding. First of all, you're going to open the VS Code, and you would most probably look at, you would have this screen. If you do not have this screen, you can go and open folder, and you can select the folder that you had created in the last video. Now let's make a new file, call it lesson2.py. Now before we begin with this, I want to show you something else. I am going to share a link to this GitHub repository in the description below. What you can do is you can find the material that I'm using in here. For example, you have this lesson plan. This is very useful that if you're not new to Python, you can look at this lesson plan and you can directly switch to that video if you want to learn that specific topic. I have listed all the topics that we are going to cover in these 30 lessons. So you can go and look at this. And I also have different folders for the different days. For lesson 2, I've already put the PDF. This is the same PDF or PowerPoint that I used in the first half of the video. And then I also have put the code. So what you can do is you can copy this code, what I show you in the lesson. And then you can modify this, you can play with it, so you do not have to write everything from the scratch. So what I do is I'd copy this and I'd go to VS Code and let's paste this. First of all, let's talk about the comments. When you don't want to write the comment, you gotta put this hash, and then you can write your comment. Not commands, your comments. Now, if I had written the exact same line but without this hash, now you see there are 16 problems already, because now it considers this as your code, not as comment. So we're going to convert this into comment. What is the shortcut key? Shortcut key is control plus backslash. So you can press control plus backslash. It would convert it into code, comment, code, comment. You can also do this. You can also write multiple line comment. So for this, you have to put 3 quotes, and then you can write anything inside of this. It would be considered as quotes. Now let's talk about the print. As I said in the first video, that the Python is very easy to understand. For example, if you want to print, you write print. It is as simple as that. Print. Then you have round brackets. Whatever you want to print, you put it inside this quote. This line would be printed. Round brackets closed. Now if I run this code, we're going to start. This is the first line that I just wrote. This line would be printed. As you can see, the second line, your text to be printed. Then you have, this is the first part, and then, and okay, so this is the interesting part. What you can do is, in the print statement, you can put two different data types together and print them. For example, the first is, this is text, and the second is integer. Now I have put a comma and separated these two, but I could have written this as like this, and there's no problem with this. Both the lines would give the same exact result. Now let's look at this. You see this, these two lines, they give the same result. But so what's the beauty in doing this comma and all that? The beauty comes in when you have a variable. For example, I assign this 46 to a variable named a. What now I would do is, if I run this, the value of a is a. Now all of this is inside the quote. Versus if I print this, the value of a, quotes closed, comma, and then a again. Now if I run this, now you'd see the difference. Here, the value of a, colon a. It printed everything as it is that was inside the quotes. But in the case of line number 24, what it printed was, it printed the value of a and then the value what was stored inside a, 46. It printed 46. So this is the beauty of this comma. You can put the text, you can put the values, and I can also only print a. Now because I have not put this inside the quotes, it would print the value of a. Now let's test this. So it printed 46. I can also do print. This time I want to print the value first, and then I want to print some text. Then I want to print the value again. So it does not matter what you do. The order, you can put the value first and then text and then variable, so it does not matter. You see 46, some text, 46, so you can combine it any ways that you want to. For example, I have shown this example. The value of a is, I put a without the quotes, it would print the value as it is shown here, 46, and the value of b is not given. Now there's another trick. What you can do is, you can write f. For example, if you do not like this comma and then comma and then comma, what you can do is, you can write f. The value of a is, now whatever variable that you have, you put it in a curly bracket. What it would do is, it would, whatever is inside the curly bracket, it would print the value of that. For example, here you can see that it printed the value of 46. The value of a is, it printed the value here, 46. Now I have not put any comma and everything is inside the quotes. But what is different is that I put the f, which is the f string. Now whatever I put inside the curly bracket, it would read the value of that. And this is the same example. So if you look at line number 29 and line number 27, both of them give the same result. You see? But the way you can write is different. So whatever you like, you can write it that way. Now let's talk about the data types. So you have different data types. You have, in Python, you have integers, you have floats. Integers are the whole number. Float is what you have when you have a decimal. Then you have complex. Complex is when you have real and imaginary part. Then you have Boolean. Boolean is when you have either true or false results. String is your text. List is indicated by square brackets, as you can see here. And list is basically a data structure that allows you to store multiple items in a single variable. It is one of Python's built-in data types used to hold a collection of items. Lists are ordered and can contain items of different data types, including other lists as well. A tuple is a collection of data types similar to a list, but with one key difference. Tuples are immutable, meaning their elements cannot be changed once the tuple is created. Like list, you can create, you can delete this value, you can add another value, but with tuple you cannot add, insert, delete any element in the list. And dictionary, as the name suggests, it contains the key value pairs. You have a key and then you have a value against that key. For example, you have a dictionary which has a key name. The value of name is Vajulasan. You have a key age. The value of age is 34. And then if you want to know the type of data, what you can do is you can print the type and then give the name of the variable. For example, you do not know that I forgot that lists are represented by square brackets, and because if the name was like S, it was called some variable called S, it was some variable called Y, TY. Now I have forgotten that. I do not know whether this is the list or this is the list. What I can do is I can print and write YTY, type, and then the name of the variable. It would tell me what is the variable here. First of all, let me comment this. Now if I run this, you see it would show me the list of all the data types: integer, float, complex, boolean, list, tuple, dictionary. So it shows me all the data types that are used in this case. So you can check the data type here. Now the data types are very interesting. So I have a very special case here. For example, if I put A is equals to 2 and B is equals to 4 and I print A plus B. Now what do you think would be the result here in this case? I want you to think, and you can put the answer in the comment box below. And I want you to be honest and do not run this code, but think. Think what would be the answer here. So let's stop here. We have understood how to put a comment. We have understood the shortcut key, which is Control plus \. We are now familiar how to print anything on the screen. We can print the variables, we can print the text, we can combine the text and the variable. We also are now familiar with the data types. We have now learned about the integers, the floats, complex, boolean, string, lists, tuples, dictionaries. We are also now familiar how to find the type of any variable, even if we do not know what the data type is. Of course, that's why we are finding the type, because we do not know. And then we have this quiz question for you. What would be the output of print A plus B when I have A is equals to 2 and B is equals to 4? Thanks for watching. Stay happy, stay healthy, and keep learning.